Okay, we are back for chapter 3, and we'll see how much we can get into. We'll read for about 30 minutes, and so maybe get 2 or maybe even 3 chapters in. So, just jumping back into Clementine. Let me find my spot. All right. I don't even want to think about the school part of Tuesday because it makes me too mad. Margaret's mother sent a note to her teacher today that said, "Watch out, my daughter isn't left alone with Clementine," I told my mom as soon as I got home. Margaret's mother is upset right now, my mom said. I guess I would be too. Then she let me stir grape jelly into my milk to make me feel better. I must have still been wearing a mad face when my dad walked in because he just took one look at me and then handed me the key to the service elevator. There she is. Her bad day. My dad is the manager of our whole apartment building. He says that means all the people who live in the building and even the pigeons are the boss of him. But he has the keys to everything, so I think that makes him the boss. And he understands that riding the service elevator calms me down when I'm mad. Dad said, 4 times, sport, that's all. And they're painting up on 7. If the painters need the elevator, then you have to get right off. So I rode up to 7 to see if the painters needed any help. You never know. And guess what I saw? 3 men painting on the ceiling on stilts. I am not making this up. Need any help, I asked? Want me to put on some stilts? I guess they were being polite because they said, "No thanks, kiddo. We're all set," even though I could see that they had a lot more to do. There's a picture of the stilts. They can reach up high. So I rode the elevator exactly 3 more times and then I went back home. When I opened the door, I could hear my mom still talking to my dad about the note. "How do you think that made her feel?" she said. "Imagine, as if our daughter is a common criminal?" My dad snorted and said, "Well, that is insulting. There is absolutely nothing common, though, about Clementine." And my mom said, "That's not funny." And my dad said, "Yeah, it is a little." And my mom said, "Okay, I guess it is a little, but what are we going to do?" And then I quickly closed the door and went back out before I could hear the answer in case it was, "Let's trade her for an easier kid." I sat out in the lobby waiting to get enough bravery to go up to the 5th floor and say sorry to Margaret's mother and ask her for a note that said, "I do not think your daughter is a common criminal." Finally, it came. I didn't take the elevator to Margaret's apartment because I couldn't risk running into old Miss Jacoby. Every time I see her, she hands me a $5 bill and says, "Run to the store and get me a box of Cheerios, dearie." I don't like to do it because then I have to bring it to her apartment on the top floor and talk to her while she counts the change and then hands me 50 cents. But if she asks me, I have to say yes because A, she's 400 years old and I'm polite, and B, I need the money because I'm saving up to buy a gorilla, and I bet those cost lots lots. Anyway, I didn't have enough extra bravery to say no thanks to her too. So I walked up the back stairway, 5 times 12 stairs, which equals 60. And I went to 5A and I knocked. Margaret's mother opened it and she just stood there looking at me like a magazine picture of a mother in a magazine picture living room. I said, "Hi," and then a bad surprise happened. Although I had never practiced it before, my voice sounded like a common criminal's. "You can't play with Margaret today, Clementine. She's spending the afternoon in her room, thinking about the consequences of her actions, which is what you should be doing too." Okay, fine. She didn't actually say the last thing, but I could tell that she was thinking it hard. Beside her, Margaret's brother Mitchell leaned out from the kitchen doorway so I could see only his head and shoulders. Then, even though he is in junior high and should know better. He grabbed his hair and pretended to yank himself back into the kitchen. And I laughed, even though I knew it was his own hand. I do not think someone should be called the hard one if they make other people laugh. Clementine, there's nothing funny about this, said Margaret's mother. I didn't tell her what was so funny, and I didn't say any sorries, and I didn't ask for a note in case I still had my common criminal voice. I just ran down the hall. This time I did take the elevator because I was hoping I would run into Miss Jacoby so I didn't have to go right home. But I didn't. And so I did. And when I opened the door to our apartment, I saw that our living room was looking all wrong. My mother was working at her drawing table, and suddenly I realized I had never seen a drawing table in a magazine picture of an apartment room. I banged the door shut hard. Margaret's mother always wears a dress. I didn't know I was going to say this. Margaret's mother works in a bank, my mother answered, still working on her drawing. It might be a rule. Still, I said, I'm an artist, Clementine. I want to be comfortable. I get my paint all over my clothes. I have to wear overalls or jeans. You know that, right? Yes, I said. Still. My mother put down her pencil and looked up then. Clementine, do you sometimes wish that you had the kind of mother who worked in a bank and wore dresses? I nailed my mouth down so I couldn't say yes, maybe, sometimes, and quick looked out the window so my mom couldn't see my eyes even thinking it. Then my mother got up and looked out the window too. Our apartment is at a basement level, which is halfway underground. So there's her mom working. This means windows are right at the sidewalk height. So we both just stood there pretending to be extremely interested in all the feet passing by. What I was really doing was trying to imagine my mother in a dress. I guess that's what she was doing too, because suddenly we both made corner eyes at each other and then we burst out laughing. And we couldn't stop. Finally, my mother wiped her eyes and said, "Oh, come on, wouldn't that be funny? Would it? It wouldn't be that funny." And I said, "Yeah, it would." And then I knew it was exactly the right time to tell her my secret. When I grow up, I might be an artist. And you know what she said? "Oh, Clementine, you already are. You may end up being something else too, whatever you want to be. But you'll always be an artist. You just are." You can see there's their window. And so the only thing they can see out the window are the feet. And suddenly our living room looked exquisite with a drawing table in it, but now my fingers itched to be drawing. So I put on my jacket and went to the park to find something interesting to draw. My dad says I'm excellent at noticing interesting things. In fact, he says if noticing interesting things were a sport, I would have a neck full of gold medals. He says that's a very good sign for my future. He says I could be a good detective, of course, but that noticing things is good for my career. My mom says that means I could be a good artist too, or a writer. Last year, a writer came to my school and said, "Pay attention." But she didn't mean to the teacher. She meant pay attention to what's going on around you so that you can write about it. Then she looked exactly at me and said to notice the good stuff and write it down so you don't forget it. So even though I'm not going to be a writer, too much sitting still, I notice interesting things and I write them down and I draw them too. In the park, I saw something great right away. A woman eating lentils from her thermos with a toothbrush. Even though she had a fork right there, she was using to eat her salad. So I asked the lady if I could draw a picture of the lentils in her toothbrush, and she said, "Sure." And so I did it, and here it is. As soon as I got home, I wrote it all down, and I asked my mom if we could have lentils for dinner. "You hate lentils, Clementine," my mother reminded her. "Well, I think I've been eating them wrong," I said. So we had lentils, and I ate them the new way, and guess what? It worked. The lentils stuck on the Brussels, and they didn't slide off like with a fork. So I got lots and lots of lentils in my mouth, which is a bad thing because I hate lentils. All right, we're going to start chapter 4. I'll give you this picture. Chapter 4. I better not go to school today, I told my mom. On Wednesday, as soon as I woke her up, I have cracked toes. I put my right foot up to the pillow right next to her face so she could see without having to get up. This is called being thoughtful. No, she said, without even opening her eyes to see that it was true. Well, that's not all, I said. I also have a heartbreak of sore irises. No, she said, and she still didn't open her eyes. Actually, I think I have arthritis, I said. Miss Jacoby was breathing on me in the elevator the other day, and I must have caught it. Oh, please, she said. But this time she opened one eye. And then she made exactly the sound Polka Dotty used to make when she had a hairball. I grabbed the corner of the quilt and covered my head, but my mom pulled it off again. She took my head in her hands and twisted it around to see all the sides. Too hard, like I wasn't inside it. You've cut off all your hair, she said. You've cut off all your beautiful hair. What on earth were you thinking, Clementine? So you can think, why do you think she didn't want to go to school? Now we know. All right, let's keep reading. I wanted to make Margaret feel better, I explained. I didn't want her to be the only one. But I forgot. Margaret's not going to school today. She has an appointment at the orthodontist to have bracelets put on her teeth. Oh, Mom groaned and closed her eyes again, but she slid over and made room for me on the warm part of her sheets. I climbed in and I took a big sniff. My mom's part of the bed smells like cinnamon rolls. My dad's part smells like pine cones. Right in the middle, it's all mixed up perfectly. It's my favorite place to be. But this morning, Dad was already off to fight the Great Pigeon War, and it was fine just being on the cinnamon roll part. My mom put her arm around me. Oh, so now you'll be the only one, she said. I'm sorry, honey, but you can't stay home. You have to go and face the music. So I had to go to school, which almost turned out to be a very bad mistake because I almost had to go to the hospital with the ambulance and the sirens and everything. It happened in the principal's office when my teacher sent me there to have a little chat about sitting still. When I walked in, Principal Rice made the hairball sound too. Clementine, she gulped. What have you done? You chopped off your hair. I was glad she'd answered her question so I didn't have to. Wow, I said instead. Clementine and Rice. We both have food names. Miss Rice sealed her lips tight like she was afraid her teeth were going to run away. Then she opened up the note from my teacher. I can't help it, I said, before she could start the little check. I'm allergic to sitting still. Nobody is allergic to sitting still, Clementine, she said. I am, I said. My brother is allergic to peanuts. If he eats one, he gets all itchy and swelled up and he can't breathe right. And if I try to sit still, I get all itchy and swelled up and I can't breathe right. So that means I am allergic to sitting still. Miss Rice squeezed her eyes shut and rubbed her forehead and happened to know this means this idea is so bad it's giving me a headache because it's the face I make when my mom tells me to visit Miss Jacoby. The face never works for me. Plus, I explain, if my brother eats even one tiny peanut, he might have to go to the hospital with the ambulance and sirens and everything. So if I sit still for 1 minute, uh-oh. I gave my body an extra jiggle just to stay safe. Phew, I said that was close. Principal Rice sighed, like a leaky balloon. Clementine, do you think when you're in class you could try and just wiggle a little more quietly from now on? I asked my body about it and it said, sure. So I told Miss Rice, sure. I said, good, she said. Now, as long as you're here, how about we discuss your hair? Thinking about my hair made me think about Margaret, and thinking about Margaret made me remember about her getting her bracelets on her teeth. want bracelets on my teeth more than anything, but then I had a bad thought. What if they had pointy edges? I didn't want to have pointy things stuck in my mind to worry me all day, so I looked out the window because the only thing to erase pointy things is with round things, and clouds are good for that. Right away, I saw that a cloud would make a wonderful tattoo. It looked exactly like a dog. If dogs had only 2 legs on the top, not the bottom, but I'm not allowed to have tattoos yet, which is unfair. So for now, I just draw things on my arms so I don't forget them, but I didn't have a pen. So I looked around the desk to see if Miss Rice had a tattoo drawing pen, and suddenly I realized something very suspicious. I had never seen Miss Rice's arms. They were always in principal sleeves. "Do you have a tattoo?" I asked. "Can I see it?" "What?" Miss Rice asked. "Clementine, we are talking about your hair." "That was a long time ago," I reminded her. I added a kind of smile, because it's not her fault that she has trouble paying attention. All right, chapter 5. As soon as I got home, I started watching for Margaret's feet. From my kitchen window, I can see the sidewalks in front of the lobby doors. Since I've memorized all the shoes of everybody who lives in our building, I always know who's coming and going in or going out. I might be a detective when I grow up. I waited and I waited and I waited, which is the hardest thing in the world, especially when you have a hot head, which I did, because my mother made me wear my winter hat so she didn't have to look at my chopped off hair. Finally, I saw Margaret's purple sneakers and I ran up to meet her in the lobby. "Let me see." Margaret pulled her lips out of the way so I could see all of her teeth. Margaret's mouth was the most beautiful place I'd ever seen. It was even more beautiful than Disneyland, Sleeping Beauty's castle, which I'm going to visit when I'm 10. Every tooth had its own sparkly bracelet, and there were little blue bits sprinkled around like tiny presents. "They're rubber bands," Margaret said. "Every month I'll go in and I'll get them changed, and they'll give me different colors, whatever I want." That gave me such a good idea. I pulled off my hat to show Margaret that she wasn't the only one, and that made her happy. I then told her my good idea. "You can pick the color of my new hair, whatever color you want, and you can draw it on my head." That made her even happier. "Those markers are still in my room," I said. "Let's go." "Is your mother still mad?" I asked. "Yeah, but she's probably going to a movie with Alan this afternoon." Alan is Margaret's mother's special friend, which is the grown-ups word for boyfriend. So we went up to her apartment. Mitchell was there watching TV, and when he saw my hair, he grabbed his chest and fell off the couch, pretending to have a heart attack. Then he smacked his forehead and said, "You guys are unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable." Even though he is older and doesn't have to be so nice to us, I think he actually likes me. Margaret glared at him. Then she jabbed her elbow into my side, and I glared at him too. Even though I didn't know why we were doing that, I'm not so sure Margaret is the easy one in that family. She dragged me into her room. "I can't wait for summer," she growled. "My mother's finally going to get rid of him." He is falling off the couch laughing. "You mean baseball camp? He wants to go, Margaret. That's not really getting rid of someone." Margaret gave me her "I'm in 4th grade and you're not" look. "Well, goodbye. Good riddance," she muttered. Then she got out my mother's markers. They were all still there, and they looked exactly the same, with none of the caps chewed up. I don't know how Margaret does that. She picked a bright green one and colored my hair, and then drew some curls on my forehead and my neck. "No pointy lines," I reminded her, "just round ones." Thinking about pointy lines made me wonder about Margaret's bracelets again. How do they feel? I bet they're full of pointy parts. "Nope," she said. "They feel like heaven," Margaret said. "No pointy parts at all. They're soft as rabbit ears. Baby rabbit ears. Too bad you can't have them." She kept her lips stretched out all the way to show me her teeth the whole time while she talked, so it was kind of hard to even understand her. But I did. "I'm getting them too," I said, "next week." Then I pulled my hat back on and ran down to my apartment quick to make this be a non-lie. I need bracelets on my teeth, I told my mother. They're beautiful and they feel wonderful. First of all, my mother said, they don't feel wonderful. Not in the beginning, anyway. Margaret's mother stopped in earlier asking if we had any medicine left over from when your brother was teething. She told me Margaret cried all the way home. That Margaret. Well, I still want them next week. And second of all, you don't need them. Your teeth are straight enough. Which is the most unfair thing I've ever heard. I can feel them bending, I said. And suddenly I could, so we'd better make that appointment. Then, before my mom could get to third of all, which is usually the worst one, we heard my brother waking up from his nap. I'm coming, Radish, I called to him. Go for a walk? He asked. Then I came into his room. You're lucky to have me for a big sister, I told him. I have to remind him of this every day because he forgets. We went into the kitchen and I got out the wok. Nobody invented this trick for me when I was little. Then he climbed into the wok like a big metal bowl, okay, like you would make stir fry in, and grabbed the handles, and I gave him a really good spin. He went whirling around, bumping into cabinets, and then he got out and walked all wobbly until he fell over, which he thinks is the funniest thing in the world. Again, he yelled, but I didn't spin him again because he throws up on the second ride and somebody has to clean it up, which is N-O-T, not me. This is called being responsible. He came over to me and pulled off my hat and pointed to my head. Green? I thought about something. First, Margaret had straight brown hair, and we didn't look alike. Then we cut it off and colored it red, so we sort of did. Then she got bracelets on our teeth, which meant we didn't look alike, but soon her teeth would be straight and we would. Except now I had a green head. What if we never looked alike? What if we did? And that is the end of chapter 5. We're going to go ahead and stop right there for today, but we have lots more to finish. So come back and we will read the other chapters of Clementine.